UK house prices haven't grown evenly. This chart shows exactly where the biggest challenges have happened. So each bubble here represents one of the fastest growing districts in the UK. Along the bottom we've got the average house price around the year 2000, and at the side we've got the prices where they are today. So the further right the bubble is, the more expensive that area already was, and the higher it is, the more expensive it has become. Now, because every bubble is labelled, we can actually see exactly which places these are. And straight away a few things stand out. First, if you look at the districts right at the top, these are the areas where prices have surged the most. Places like these have gone from already expensive to some of the highest priced areas in the country. That tells us that strong markets don't just stay strong, they often continue to accelerate. But what's more interesting is what's happening slightly lower down. There are several districts here that didn't start at the very top, but they have still climbed significantly over time. These are often overlooked areas. They weren't the most expensive to begin with, but they've delivered some of the strongest growth. And that's where things get really interesting, because it suggests that growth isn't just about starting high, it's about momentum. Some areas build that momentum and keep pushing upwards, while others grow more slowly. Also, you can see how spread out these bubbles are. Even within the top performing districts, there's a big difference in both starting and final price. That spread tells us that the UK housing market is far from uniform. Different areas are moving at different speeds. So the key takeaway here is this: if you're trying to understand where house prices are rising the fastest, you shouldn't just focus on the most expensive places. You need to look at how much they've grown relative to where they started, because often the biggest movers aren't just the ones you'd expect. And by looking at it this way, you can clearly see which parts of the country are pulling ahead. Moving on from this, these are the districts in the UK where house prices have risen the fastest. Each bar represents a district, and the length of the bar shows the percentage increase in average house prices from around the year 2000 till today. And straight away we can see just how big the differences are. At the top of the chart, these areas have seen the most dramatic growth. Prices in these districts haven't just gone up, they've multiplied several times over. That's a huge shift in the value over a relatively short period of time. And what's interesting is that these aren't just the same type of place. Some of these districts are already well known and are higher value areas, but others are less obvious. They weren't necessarily the most expensive to begin with, but they've experienced a very strong growth over time. And that's where things get really important, because it shows that the biggest gains in the housing market don't always come from the places you'd expect. If you look further down the chart, you can see how quickly the growth starts to drop off. Even within the top performing areas, there's a noticeable gap between the very top districts and the rest. That tells us that a number of these areas are pulling ahead much faster than others, and that creates a widening gap in the market. Now, another thing to notice is the mix of counties. You've got different regions represented here, which shows that strong growth isn't just limited to one part of the UK. It's happening in multiple pockets, but not evenly. Some areas are clearly outperforming the rest. So the key takeaway from this chart is the UK housing market isn't just moving at one consistent rate, but a handful of districts are seeing very rapid growth, while others are increasing very much more slowly. And if you're trying to understand where prices are rising the fastest, these top areas give you a really clear picture of where the momentum is strongest, because ultimately it's not just about where the prices are high, it's about where they're growing the fastest. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and let me know if you've got any property or property data related queries.